The setting, the galaxy was wide and endless, filled with thousands of alien civilizations. Each race had their pride, their power, and their history. In this huge sea of stars, humans were almost nothing. They were late to space travel, weak compared to the mighty alien empires, and forgotten in the great records of the galaxy. But still, humans had survived. They had spread from Earth to small colonies, often at the edge of alien-controlled systems. The galaxy did not fear them. The galaxy did not respect them. To most alien races, humans were only merchants, workers, and wanderers. They were seen as clever sometimes, but never strong, never dangerous. Our story begins in one such colony, a small planet called Vera 9. It was not a beautiful world. Its surface was dusty and dry, its air thin, and its oceans almost dead. Yet humans lived there, building cities under domes of glass and metal. They traded with nearby alien merchants and tried to live a quiet life. Inside one of those cities lived a man named Aaron Dale. He was not famous, not powerful, not rich. He worked as a mechanic, fixing broken ships and machines. Day after day, he watched alien traders come and go. He heard their laughter, their voices filled with arrogance. They spoke of humans as if they were children, weak and simple. Aaron did not argue. He kept his head low. He fixed their machines, took their coins, and went home. But inside his heart, a quiet storm was waiting. He believed there was something special about humans, something the galaxy had not yet seen, something the galaxy had not yet feared. Far above the colony, in the darkness of orbit, alien ships were watching. The Threx Dominion, a powerful empire of cold-blooded reptilian warriors, had stretched their claws across many systems. To them, humans were nothing more than insects, crawling in forgotten corners. But the Threx were greedy. They wanted every world, even small dusty ones like Vera 9. On the night our story truly begins, Aaron stood outside the city dome, staring at the stars. His hands were dirty with oil, his body tired from work, yet his eyes burned with wonder. The stars whispered to him. They told him of danger. They told him of change. In the distance, lights moved in the sky. At first, people thought it was a merchant fleet, but soon the truth came clear. It was a Threx warship. Its engines glowed like fire. Its shadow covered the stars. Panic spread in the colony. Children cried. Merchants closed their shops. Guards shouted orders. Aaron did not run. He kept watching. His heart pounded. He felt fear, but also something else. A spark deep inside. He whispered to himself, "They do not know us. They do not know what humans can do." The Threx warship landed outside the city. Dust rose into the air as its massive legs crushed the ground. The sound was like thunder. Alien soldiers poured out, armored and armed, their eyes cold, their movements sharp. The colony gates shook as they demanded entry. Inside the dome, the human governor tried to speak with them. His voice trembled. He offered trade, resources, and even loyalty. But the Threx laughed. To them, humans were not partners. They were prey. Aaron watched from the crowd. His fists clenched. Around him, people whispered. Some wanted to hide. Some wanted to surrender. Few wanted to fight. No one believed they could win. Yet in that moment, Aaron felt a truth that others did not. He felt that humans were more than they seemed. He remembered the old stories from Earth, of wars, of survival, of fire in the human spirit. He remembered that humans had faced death 1,000 times and still endured. The night grew darker. The colony lights flickered. The alien soldiers entered the city with heavy steps. Their leader, tall and cruel, spoke in a voice that echoed across the square. "You will kneel to the Threx Dominion, or you will burn." The crowd fell silent. Fear hung in the air. Children clung to their parents. Old men bowed their heads. And yet, deep in that silence, Aaron's heart burned brighter. He did not speak. Not yet. He did not fight. Not yet. But in his eyes there was a promise. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy thought humans were nothing. But the galaxy had never seen what humans could become. This was only the beginning. The conflict. The Threx soldiers marched through the human colony. Their boots hit the metal floors with heavy echoes. Their weapons glowed with alien fire. The air inside the dome grew colder, as if even the walls were afraid. People stepped back, shops closed, and streets emptied. The once busy colony was now silent. Humans watched from behind doors and windows, their faces pale, their voices whispers. Nobody dared to stand against the invaders, but Arendelle did not hide. He stood in the square, eyes locked on the soldiers. His hands trembled, but he did not move. He felt anger burning, stronger than fear. He thought of Earth, of human history, and of how many times humanity had been called weak, and how many times they had proven otherwise. The Threx commander raised his clawed hand. "This world belongs to the Dominion now," he hissed. "Your resources, your labor, your lives, all of it is ours." His soldiers spread out, marking homes, scanning humans, and taking names. They treated the colony like a conquered farm. Aaron clenched his fists, but he knew he could not fight alone. He would be crushed in a moment. He needed to wait, to watch, to understand. Humans had always won not by strength, but by patience, cunning, and unity. As night fell inside the dome, the Threx established their control. They set up armored camps. Their ships towered outside the glass sky. Drones flew in the air like metal birds, watching everything. The colony was now a cage. Aaron returned to his small home. He sat in darkness, listening to the distant sound of alien engines. His mind raced. He remembered old Earth wars he had read about. Humans had fought empires before, stronger than themselves. They had survived every storm. But now the enemy was beyond anything Earth had known. Cold, ruthless, and from the stars. The next morning, the commander of the Threx made his demands. Every family had to give supplies, metals, and energy. Those who refused would be punished. To show his power, the commander dragged a human merchant into the square and burned his shop before the crowd. Smoke filled the dome. People cried, but no one fought back. Aaron stood in the crowd, his heart heavy. He saw the fear, the silence, the hopeless eyes of his people, and he made a decision. If humans bowed now, they would always be slaves. If they resisted, they might die. But at least they would die free. That night, Aaron began his plan. He walked through the colony quietly, meeting a few friends. They were not soldiers, only workers, farmers, and traders. But they listened. His voice carried something rare, something strong. He spoke of survival, of human history, of how every empire before had underestimated them. Aliens see us as weak, Aaron whispered, but they don't know what we carry inside. They don't know we fight even when hope is gone. They don't know we never give up. This is our world, our lives. And if we don't fight for them, no one else will. At first, many were afraid. They shook their heads. They wanted safety. They wanted peace. But Aaron's words planted seeds. Quiet seeds of defiance. Outside the dome, the Threx ship loomed like a monster in the sky. Inside, the alien commander grew impatient. He sent more patrols. He ordered harsher control. Humans were treated like cattle. The colony was breaking, but within that breaking, a hidden fire was forming. Aaron's small group began with whispers. They shared old stories of Earth heroes. They drew secret signs on walls, a circle with a star. They collected scraps of metal and broken tools. Slowly, carefully, they prepared. One night, as Aaron moved through a dark alley, a drone spotted him. Its red eye flashed. Its alarm echoed. Soldiers rushed toward him. Aaron's heart raced. He grabbed a metal pipe. He was only a mechanic, not a warrior. But as the first soldier came close, Aaron swung. The sound of steel against armor rang out. The alien hissed in anger. Aaron barely escaped. His body bruised, his lungs burning. But he had done it. He had struck the first blow. He had shown that humans could fight back. Word spread quickly. The colony whispered his name. Some called him reckless. Others called him brave. But one thing was clear. A spark had been lit. The Threx commander was furious. "Find the human!" he roared. His soldiers searched every home, questioned every family. Their claws scratched against doors. Their shadows filled the streets. Aaron knew his life was now in danger. But he also knew something greater. For the first time, humans in the colony began to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope was powerful. And in the galaxy, hope had always been the sharpest human weapon. This was not the end. It was only the start of the conflict. The war for Vera 9 had begun. The discovery. The colony of Vera 9 was no longer the same. The streets once filled with merchants and children were now patrolled by alien soldiers. Their glowing weapons cast red light on the walls. Fear lived in every corner. Yet in the middle of this fear, something new was growing. Something that even the Thrax could not see. Aaron Deal, the mechanic-turned-fighter, hid in the shadows. His face was tired. His body wounded from running. But his spirit was alive, for the first time. Humans in the colony began to whisper, not only about fear, but about possibility, about the chance that maybe, just maybe, they could resist. It was during one of his hiding nights that Aaron made a strange discovery. He had crawled into the old maintenance tunnels beneath the colony dome. These tunnels were long forgotten, filled with dust and broken machines. He carried a small lamp, its weak light shaking with his steps. As he walked deeper, he found something unusual. A sealed door, marked with symbols, not from the colony, but from Earth. His heart jumped. He pressed his hands against the metal. It was cold, old, but still alive with hidden energy. With effort, he forced it open. Inside was a chamber, dark and silent. In the center stood a machine, covered in dust. Its design was old, yet powerful. It was not alien. It was human. The markings read, Project Dawn. Aaron stepped closer. His fingers brushed across the surface. He remembered stories from his grandfather. Stories of secret Earth projects, built before humanity left for the stars. Machines created not for trade, but for survival. Weapons, defenses, things that were hidden when humans feared the alien empires would crush them. He touched a switch. The machine hummed. Lights flickered. Old screens glowed faintly. Words appeared. System reboot. His heart pounded. This was not just a broken tool. This was something greater. The machine spoke in a soft voice. Human presence confirmed. Project Dawn activated. Aaron froze. The voice was calm, but its power was clear. He had uncovered a secret that had slept for decades. As the machine woke, images filled the chamber walls. Records of old human experiments. Plans of weapons that could bend energy. Codes that could disrupt alien technology. The ancestors had been clever. They had prepared. But no one had remembered. Until now. Aaron stayed there for hours. Reading, learning, absorbing every line. He realized that humans had always hidden their greatest strength. It was not only courage, but creativity, the ability to build something out of nothing, the ability to turn weakness into power. By the time he left the chamber, Aaron was no longer the same. He carried knowledge, knowledge that could change everything. He walked back into the night, his mind alive with ideas. The next day, he met his small group again. They sat in a dim storage room, eyes tired, hearts heavy. Aaron spoke, his voice steady. I found something from Earth, something they don't know about. He explained what he had seen. At first, his friends were silent. The thought of hidden human technology sounded like a dream. But Aaron's eyes carried a truth, and they began to believe. We cannot fight them with strength, Aaron said, but we can fight them with what they do not expect. They think we are simple. They think we are weak. But we will show them what it means to be human. Together, they returned to the tunnels. They cleaned the chamber. They studied the machine. It became their secret place, their hidden heart of rebellion. Days passed. The threats grew harsher. Soldiers punished anyone who resisted. Families starved. Hope trembled. But under the ground, hope burned brighter. The humans were learning, creating, preparing. One night, Aaron tested one of the old codes. He built a small device, using scraps and parts. When he activated it, the nearest Thrax drone froze. Its red eye went dark. It fell to the ground like a broken toy. His group gasped. For the first time, they had taken something from the enemy. It was not just a victory. It was a discovery. A reminder that humans could turn knowledge into power. Word spread in secret. More humans joined. Each brought skills. A farmer with tools. A teacher with books. A child with quick hands. They were not warriors, but together they were becoming something greater. The Threx commander, however, sensed a change. His cold eyes narrowed as he looked at the colony. Something stirs, he hissed to his officers. Find it, crush it. His ship scanned the skies. His soldiers searched deeper. The cage was closing tighter. But what he did not understand was this. Humans in cages had always found ways to escape. Humans in darkness had always found ways to create light. Aaron stood again in the square one evening. His eyes lifted to the stars beyond the dome. He thought of Earth, of the ancestors who built machines in secret. He thought of the future. He whispered to himself, "They think they know us, but they have only seen our shadow. They have not yet seen our fire." The discovery had changed everything. The colony was no longer only a prison. It had become a battlefield, and the humans were ready to begin. The struggle. The colony of Vera 9 lived under fear, but below its streets, in the hidden chamber, humans prepared. Arundel and his small group studied Project Dawn. Each night they tested codes, built devices, and learned how to use the forgotten knowledge of Earth. The Thrax soldiers grew suspicious. Patrols doubled. Their drones scanned every corner. People were searched without warning. Fear grew heavier. Yet fear could not stop the fire that had begun. Humans were learning to fight in their own way. The first test came suddenly. A Threx patrol entered the Western District, demanding supplies. Families cried as soldiers ripped food from their homes. Aaron and 2 others were nearby. They carried one of the small devices made from Project Dawn's codes. Aaron pressed the switch. A pulse of invisible energy spread through the street. The soldiers' weapons flickered. Their armor lights went dark. For a few seconds, the aliens stood frozen, confused. The humans attacked with simple tools. Pipes, stones, even bare fists. The aliens were stronger, taller, but without their weapons, they stumbled, for the first time. The colony struck back. The fight was quick and brutal. 2 aliens fell. The others fled in rage. The humans grabbed their weapons and disappeared into the tunnels. It was not a victory of strength, but of surprise. Still, it was a victory. Word spread like fire in whispers. In secret signs on walls, people spoke of the rebels. They spoke of the mechanic who broke the alien machines. Hope grew louder. Fear did not vanish, but it was now mixed with courage. The Thrax commander roared in anger. He ordered punishments. Whole families were dragged into the square. The aliens demanded the rebels show themselves. Aaron watched from the shadows. His fist shook. His heart wanted to run forward, but he held back. He knew this was only the beginning. The struggle grew harder each day. The rebels had to move in silence. Every step carried danger. One mistake could reveal everything. They used the tunnels, old storage rooms, even broken machines as hiding places. They spoke in coded words, shared looks instead of names. Aaron felt the weight of leadership. He had not asked for it, yet people looked to him. He did not see himself as a hero. He was still just a mechanic, but he could not ignore the truth. Humans needed someone to carry the fire. One night, the group tested another code. This one was stronger. When activated, a shockwave rippled through the air. Nearby drones crashed, sparks bursting like fireworks. For the first time, the rebels had a weapon that could challenge the sky, but victories carried cost. The Threx were hunters, and they grew more cruel. Soldiers beat humans in the streets. Supplies were cut off. The colony began to starve. Children cried at night, and every family felt despair. Aaron struggled inside. His heart was heavy. He wondered if his fight was only bringing more pain. He thought of stopping, hiding, surviving quietly. But each time, he remembered the faces of the people, the broken voices of those who still whispered hope. He could not walk away. The rebels planned carefully. They chose targets not for glory, but for survival. A supply depot here, a drone relay there. Each strike was small, but each strike shook the Threx. The aliens had power, but they did not understand resistance. They did not understand the human way of fighting. One evening, Aaron stood with his group on a rooftop. The domed sky above glowed with alien ships. He looked at his friends, simple people with tired eyes, yet eyes filled with fire. He said quietly, "We cannot match their strength, but we can bleed them. We can show them we are not cattle. We are not shadows. We are human, and we will not kneel." The group nodded. Fear still lived inside them, but so did resolve. The next strike was bolder. A convoy of Threx soldiers moved through the market, carrying stolen resources. Aaron's group hid in the tunnels beneath. At the signal, they triggered their device. The convoy's engines died. Their machines fell silent. In seconds, humans rushed out from hidden doors, throwing stones, striking with pipes. The aliens fought back fiercely, but confusion and chaos ruled. When it ended, the convoy was gone. Humans carried food back into their homes. It was not just survival, it was defiance. The colony had tasted freedom, even for a moment. The Threx commander grew furious. His cold voice echoed across the colony. "You think you can resist us? You think you can fight the Dominion? You will learn the price of rebellion." His soldiers tightened their grip. His ships circled closer. The struggle was now open. The humans were no longer only hiding. They were fighting. They were bleeding the Empire. But Aaron knew the truth. This was not the final battle. This was only the storm before the greater war. The Threx would come harder, stronger, and when they did, humans would need more than courage. They would need to unlock every secret hidden inside Project Dawn. Aaron stood in the tunnels that night, staring at the machine that had given them hope. His voice was low, steady. "They think they understand us, but they don't. They never will. We will fight. We will suffer, but we will endure because we are human. And we always endure." The struggle had begun, and there was no turning back. The turning point. The colony of Vera 9 burned under the weight of fear. The Threx commander ruled with iron claws. His soldiers controlled the streets, and his drones filled the skies. But beneath the ground, in the hidden chamber of Project Dawn, humans prepared for something greater. Arendelle and his rebels had grown stronger. They had turned scraps into tools, and tools into weapons. They had stolen food from convoys, broken drones, and even forced the Threx to retreat once or twice. Still, they were only a shadow against the Empire. Every success risked destruction. Every whisper of rebellion brought more punishment. But then came the discovery that changed everything. Inside the chamber, the rebels unlocked a deeper layer of Project Dawn. The machine glowed with brighter light. Its voice calm. Final protocols available. Caution required. Aaron stared at the screen. His heart pounded. This was not just a code to disable weapons. This was something else, something dangerous. The rebels studied the records. They learned that Project Dawn had been built as a last defense. It carried knowledge of energy disruption, enough to cripple starships. The ancestors had prepared for war they never fought. Now their forgotten creation had been found by ordinary colonists. Aaron's group debated for hours. Some feared using it, saying the Threx would bring total destruction if provoked. Others argued it was their only chance. Finally, Aaron spoke, his voice steady. If we stay silent, we die as slaves. If we fight, we may die as free men. But if we use this, we may live. And more than that, we may show the galaxy what humans truly are. The plan was bold, reckless, almost impossible. The rebels would strike at the warship itself, the towering Threx vessel that watched the colony like a god of fire. If they could disable it, even for a short time, the message would be clear. Humans were not insects. Humans were not shadows. Humans could strike the sky. The night of the attack arrived. The rebels moved through tunnels and broken alleys, carrying their device. It was small, no bigger than a human chest. But inside, it carried the ancient power of Project Dawn. Aaron carried it himself, his hands firm, his eyes burning. The Threx soldiers patrolled as usual, unaware of what was coming. Above, the warship floated like a mountain of steel, its engines humming, its weapons ready. The rebels reached the outer field. Aaron placed the device on the ground. His fingers hovered over the switch. For a moment, silence filled the air. He thought of his people, of the children hiding in fear, of the faces waiting for hope. He whispered, "For humanity," and pressed the switch. A pulse burst out, invisible but mighty. The ground shook, the sky crackled, the warship's lights flickered. Its engines roared in confusion. Drones fell like dead birds. Soldiers shouted, their weapons shutting down. The entire colony gasped as the giant ship above them dimmed. For the first time, the Threx vessel looked weak. Cheers erupted in the streets. Humans cried out in disbelief. The rebels had done the impossible. They had struck the heart of the enemy. Even if only for minutes, they had shown power. The Threx commander roared in fury. His voice shook the dome. "Find them! Destroy them!" His soldiers stormed the streets, smashing doors, dragging humans from homes. Rage filled the air. Yet no amount of violence could erase what had happened. The warship had fallen silent under human hands. Aaron and his group fled back into the tunnels, hearts racing, lungs burning. They carried nothing but the memory of what they had done. Yet that memory was worth more than weapons. It was proof. Proof that humans could strike the impossible. In the hidden chamber, they gathered. Some cried. Some laughed. Aaron stood quiet, his mind already racing forward. He knew this was only the beginning. The Threx would never forgive. The war would grow harder. But something had changed forever. The colony no longer whispered in fear. It whispered in pride. Children spoke of the rebels as heroes. Elders lifted their heads. Even the weakest felt a spark. The galaxy had always believed humans were weak. But tonight, on Vera 9, humans had rewritten that story. Aaron stood alone at the edge of the tunnels. He looked through the glass dome at the warship, still flickering with damaged lights. He felt no joy, only resolve. He whispered, "They think this is the end, but it is only the beginning. They think they can crush us, but we will rise again and again." That is what it means to be human. Far above, the warship slowly regained power. Its engines roared once more. Its lights burned back to life. The Threx commander stared down at the colony, hatred in his eyes. The humans had crossed a line. The war was no longer about control. It was about fear. The aliens had begun to fear humans. And in the galaxy, fear was the first step to respect. The victory, but at a cost. The colony of Vera 9 had changed forever. The night the great Threx warship lost its light was remembered by every human. For the first time, they had seen the enemy stumble. For the first time, they had felt pride instead of fear. But pride did not last long. The Threx commander was furious. His soldiers swept through the colony like fire. Doors were smashed, homes torn apart, families dragged into the streets. The rebels had struck a mighty blow. But now the Empire struck back harder. Arundel and his group knew they could not stop the storm. Yet they also knew retreat was no longer possible. The Thrax would never see humans the same way again. If they wanted freedom, they had to fight for it fully. They had to risk everything. Inside the hidden chamber of Project Dawn, the rebels worked day and night. The machine revealed more codes, more secrets. It showed them how to build stronger devices, how to disrupt alien energy fields for longer. Each weapon was small, fragile, but each carried the spark of human creativity. The plan was daring. They would attack not just soldiers, but the warship itself. This time, not to disable it for minutes, but to cripple it for good. If the ship fell, the Thrax would be forced to retreat. Eren stood before his group, his voice calm but heavy. This will not be easy. Some of us may not return. But if we succeed, the colony will live. The galaxy will hear our cry. They will know what it means to fight as humans. His friends nodded. Fear shone in their eyes, but so did fire. Farmers, workers, teachers, all ordinary people ready to risk their lives. They were not soldiers, but they were human, and that was enough. The night of the attack came. The rebels moved through the tunnels, carrying their weapons above them. The warship glowed like a steel mountain, engines humming, cannons ready. The aliens inside had no idea that shadows below prepared to strike. The rebels reached the surface, hidden near the ship's landing field. The device from Project Dawn was placed once more. This time it was stronger, upgraded, but also unstable. If it failed, it could explode, destroying everyone near. Eren placed his hand on it, his voice low. For humanity, the switch was pressed. A wave of energy burst out. The ground shook. The warship's shields cracked like glass. Its cannons flickered. Its engines roared in pain. Soldiers shouted in confusion. Their weapons died in their hands. The rebels charged, not with laser rifles or armored suits, but with pipes, blades, and courage. They struck fast, hitting stunned soldiers, grabbing weapons, turning the enemy's power against them. It was chaos. It was madness. But it worked. For the first time. The humans controlled the field. The Thrax fell back. Their commander screamed orders, but fear spread among them. How could weak humans strike so hard? How could slaves become warriors? Then came the cost. The unstable device began to glow. Sparks erupted. The energy field shook dangerously. Eren realized the truth. It was breaking. If it exploded, it would kill everyone nearby, humans and aliens alike. He looked at his group, at the faces that had followed him into fire. He knew what had to be done. Without a word, he rushed to the device. His friends shouted, "Eren, no!" But he did not stop. His hands gripped the machine. He forced its energy into a controlled release. His body burned with light. His voice echoed, "For humanity." The blast shook the field. The warship cracked open. Its engines collapsed. Flames burst into the sky. The mighty ship of the Thrax crashed to the ground. A monster of steel brought low by human hands. The rebels stood in silence, staring at the wreck, their ears ringing, their hearts racing. They had done it. They had destroyed the ship. The Thrax commander fled with his soldiers, their empire humiliated. The colony erupted in cheers. Humans wept and embraced. Children laughed for the first time in months. They had won. They had broken their cage. They were free, but Eren did not stand among them. His body was gone, taken by the blast. Only the memory of his voice remained. His friends bowed their heads. Some cried. Others whispered his name like a prayer. The cost was heavy. Victory had been bought with sacrifice. Yet in that sacrifice lay something greater. Eren had given his life, but in doing so, he had given his people a future. The galaxy would hear of this night. Aliens would whisper of the humans who destroyed a warship with scraps and courage. The Dominion would remember the name of Vera 9, and the humans themselves would remember that they were not weak. They were not shadows. They were fire. As the sun rose over the broken warship, smoke rising into the sky, the humans stood together, bruised but unbroken. The fight was not over. The Threx would return, stronger, angrier, but now the humans knew the truth. They could win. They could endure. They could rise. Aaron's name became more than a name. It became a symbol, a promise whispered from lips to lips, a reminder of what it meant to be human. And though the cost was high, the victory was theirs. The dawn over Vera 9 was unlike any other. Smoke rose from the wreck of the Threx warship. Its broken body lay across the desert. Like the skeleton of a fallen giant, the colony stood in silence, watching as the sun touched the steel with gold. For the first time in memory, the humans breathed as free people, yet freedom carried weight. Arundel, the mechanic who became a leader, was gone. His sacrifice lived in the hearts of every man, woman, and child. In whispers, they spoke his name. In tears, they remembered his courage. Some drew his symbol on walls. A circle with a star. It spread across the colony like fire. The Threx commander had fled. His pride shattered. His army broken. But he had not been destroyed. In the shadows of the galaxy, he would report to his masters. He would tell them of humans, of the colony that rose against the Dominion. He would tell them of the warship that fell to scraps and courage, and the masters would not forgive. The humans knew this. The colony celebrated, yes, but they also feared. They looked to the stars and saw danger. The Threx would return, not with one ship, but with fleets, not with anger, but with vengeance. This victory was not the end. It was the beginning of something larger. Inside the hidden chamber of Project Dawn, the machine still glowed, its voice faint but steady. Protocol incomplete, further directives remain. The rebels gathered around it, their eyes wide. They realized Project Dawn had given them more than weapons. It had given them a map, a path towards something greater, something their ancestors had hidden long ago. Aaron's closest friend, Lyra, placed her hand on the machine. Her voice low, "He gave his life for this. We cannot stop here. We must finish what he began." The others nodded. They were tired. They were wounded. But they were not broken. The colony changed quickly. Farmers became builders. Mechanics became engineers. Teachers became strategists. They worked together, turning ruins into strength. They salvaged parts from the fallen warship. Alien steel was reshaped by human hands. Weapons were rebuilt, shields reforged. The colony that once bowed now stood tall. Children played near the wreck, but even they knew its meaning. They shouted, "We are human," as if it were a game, but it was not a game. It was a promise. Far above, the stars shimmered, and in those stars, ships moved, unseen. The Threx had not vanished. They were gathering, preparing. Somewhere in the cold darkness, alien voices spoke of humans, not with laughter, but with warning. The galaxy would soon learn the story of Vera 9. Aaron's memory guided every step. In the tunnels, his name was carved into stone. In the streets, his story was told by firelight. He had become more than a man. He had become a legend. But legends alone could not win wars. One evening, as the rebels studied the machine, it revealed something new, a signal, faint but clear, coming from far beyond the colony. The words echoed in the chamber. "Human beacon detected. Coordinates available." The group froze. Their eyes locked. They realized they were not alone. Somewhere out there, Beyond the stars. Other humans had survived. Other colonies, perhaps stronger, perhaps hidden. Lyra smiled for the first time since Aaron's death. Her voice carried hope. We are not the last. We are not forgotten. The galaxy will learn. Humanity will rise together. The rebels understood then. Vera 9 was only the first chapter. Their fight had begun here. But it would not end here. They would spread. They would unite. They would carry the fire of humanity across the stars. As night fell, the colony gathered around the wreck of the warship. Torches burned. Voices rose in a single chant. For Aaron. For humanity. It echoed against the glass dome. It shook the air. Even the stars seemed to listen. The Threx had believed humans were weak. They had believed humans were nothing. But Vera 9 had proven them wrong, and as the fires burned and the people sang, a truth became clear. The war was not over. The war was only beginning. The galaxy would never be the same.